Hey everyone, and welcome to the Defining Your Life podcast, where we focus on living in our purpose, practicing presence, and activating our power in each moment. I'm Marsharelle, your resident pep talk provider, and I invite you to join me as we continue to learn, lift each other up, and strive to level up together. Because we are never finished defining our lives, and it takes a village, so let's build one. Stay tuned for the episode. Hey everyone, I hope that you've been having a fantastic week, and I'm super excited about our rapid fire feature guest, Nicole Kenney, founder of the digital relationship building platform, Hey Auntie. And I just want to give her a warm welcome. Welcome, Nicole.
Thank you, Marsharelle. I'm super happy to be here.
All right, so let's hop right into it. Describe Hey Auntie in 30 seconds or less.
So, Hey Auntie, we are a digital tool that connects Black women across ages and life stages to learn the rules, gain the tools, and build the networks that thrive at home, work, and everywhere in between. And what our mission ultimately is to do is to equip and empower Black women to be able to exchange and deliver culturally competent, safe, non-clinical, emotional, and social support so that they can rise and thrive over the daily stressors of our lives, because life be life in. And what we know about Black women is that community is oftentimes one of the best kind of like medicines to help us not just heal, but really thrive.
So can you tell us about what prompted you to start Hey Auntie?
Yeah, so Hey Auntie started officially in 2021, unofficially in 2015, but we can talk about that in a minute. But at 2021, because I was the grand prize winner of a social impact competition called the Well City Challenge, which was sponsored by the Economy League and Independence Blue Cross and Blue Shield. What they were looking for were community-based solutions to address millennial health, because what the data is showing is that millennials' mental health is actually, and health, I think not just behavioral, but also physical health, is actually worse than Gen Xers, right? And so that's deeply concerning. And so they were looking for community-based innovations. For me, I'm also a social impact entrepreneur and consultant. So I've been doing a lot of work around Black women and well-being and health, not just in community spaces, but also in workplaces, and then just with my own lived experience. And then I was also introduced to the tech space. So I was really learning to think about how to deliver and provide these services on a larger scale. So I often tell people, Hey Auntie was more so just a convergence of all these different streams that I was in. And the Wall Street Challenge just gave me the perfect opportunity to put forth this idea and then actualize it.
Several years back, you were on a different trajectory career-wise. I know you said you kind of merged everything together, but can you talk a bit about that period of transition in your life and what gave you the courage to kind of start walking in the path in which you've chosen now?
Yeah, so that would be 8 years ago. So I was 32. So at that time, my background is I have a BA in government and psychology and a master's in policy. And at that time, I was working with the national NAACP, managing their communications nationally. And, just by nature of, being a Black woman and just living life, I just burnt out. And it was really a culmination of life being in these highly stressful spaces, whether it was academia, whether it was work, and then just the lived experience. When I think about at the time I was with NAACP, we had the killings of Eric Garner, Michael Brown, Patty Gray, right? And so just the emotional toll that was taking on me.
Yeah.
And what was but what was also interesting is at that time, although we're having a more open and frank conversation around mental health, which I love, at that time, we weren't talking about it as much. And so I was really falling apart, but I didn't know who to talk to. And I'm even in Black spaces and I don't know who to talk to, and it was my doctor. I went to her because I started to have really physical manifestations, with tremors in my body. I couldn't get out of bed. I could barely walk. And I go to the gym. I eat fairly healthy. And I'm 32, right? And she's the first one who told me it could be stress. And I just didn't believe her. My response, which now I recognize, thank God for therapy, but my response was just work harder. If I work harder, then all these different things will go away. So what happened was, just to fast forward, I knew it was time to transition. I actually could not. I've been someone who has had a pretty clear vision for my life, and I couldn't see myself continuing down this path, which was really challenging for me because I'm like, what's next? And I knew it was time for me to go home because I also have a very supportive network. My mom, my dad, especially my auntie. And I talk about my auntie, and I call this Hey Auntie is because she's also a nurse. And she's also been very deeply entrenched in community-based care. So she told me a couple of things. First, she said as a nurse, she recognized the signs and symptoms. She always talks about signs and symptoms. But then she also did something too. She came down with my parents. She sat next to me on the couch. I'll never forget it. And she started just telling stories. Because what I realize, and I hear from a lot of Black women, when we're experiencing things, it feels very individual. And what happens typically is that you isolate because you're more ashamed, right? So you withdraw. So I'm hearing her tell these stories that are so familiar that it gave me kind of this understanding, like maybe this isn't just a Nicole thing. And then she told me the last place you need to be when you're in a low place is by yourself. And that was important because I was at a place in my mind where it was just negative. It's just this feedback loop of what I'm not, what I can't do. And so that was really kind of the impetus for me to start talking to more people. I realized that I had some form of depression because I went to my pastor. I'm laughing because the question he asked me, he took me out to lunch and he said, are you sleeping? And I was proud of myself. I was like, oh, I'm sleeping all the time. He's like, Nicole, that's. And I didn't know because I'm high functioning.
Yes.
I think I have it all together. And so what gave me the courage? Because I tell people this was not an easy decision to make. It took me over a year to get off the path that I thought I was going to be on for the rest of my life. And that was really driven not just by my community, but my faith in God. And I can't minimize that because I have to be authentic in sharing. That was so important. I knew I was being called to take a step back, and that was hard, but I really trusted God that if I did this, one of the benefits of being in multi-generational communities is that I get to talk to women who are in their 70s and 80s. And one of the things that you're in your 70s and 80s, you begin to reflect all the time. You're looking back, saying, okay, I did this, if I did this. And so I remember having a conversation with God and thinking, I do not want to be in my 70s and have to wonder what would have happened if I obeyed and left. I just remember
that's a word right there.
That was I said, yeah, however it goes. And I'm walking this out daily. There are times when I'm like, I thought this was going to look different. But what I can say, and I'm fairly proud of, I don't have many regrets. And so I don't have to wonder, what it would have been like. And I'll tell you, at the 32-year-old Nicole had no idea that would be doing everything I'm doing now. I couldn't see it. But it was really this kind of like belief in God that I don't want to be 70 and 80 and have to wonder.
Yes. What do you want people to know about the power of aunties?
Yeah, so I'm glad you asked me this question. So, I tell everyone, aunties are important in every community. They play a super important role, as you talked about earlier, just the social fabric. Black aunties are really special for this particular reason. All aunties are special, but the historical and cultural legacy of Black aunties is unique because we're referencing a legacy that predates America and all the way in West Africa, and so in West Africa, there's this understanding that every child is your child, not just the mother's child. And it extends to fictive kinship relationships, right? And so it's just like, if I see someone's baby, that baby is mine. How can I love this baby and love her well, love him well? When we were trafficked here to the United States and enslaved, one of the things I think is so incredible and powerful about aunties is that the first thing they did is they tore apart families, right?
Yes.
And so what we have now are children who have been torn up from their parents and put on a plantation where they don't know anyone.
Yeah.
And yet it was these women who had such deep values and commitments to these values from West Africa, even when their own children were taken
Absolutely,
away.
in their own pain.
I will be, their own pain. I'm going to look out for this baby that I do not know, like they're my own.
Yeah.
And the idea that is the legacy of Black aunties. It is one of the most protective factors we have as a community. And I think, again, the sense of that, I don't have to know you, right?
Yeah.
To extend this type of love to you, that fictive kinship tie, I think is one of the most beautiful things that came out of one of our most painful parts of history and has been able to persist over 400 years.
Yeah.
It's that we as Black folks need to be reminded of. So I had an auntie tell me, she studies Black aunties, Dr. Regina Davis Sowers. Her charge to me, she's in her 70s. She said, Nicole, please help these folks today understand their history. The reason a lot of us are here is because we stand on the shoulders of aunties.
Yes.
Right? And so really kind of better understanding that and then leveraging it. That strength is what I want us to know. Because sometimes we feel like we all alone. First of all, we're never alone. But in Black communities with Black aunties, I promise you, like they're everywhere.
They are everywhere. If you allow them to be in your life, right?
If you allow them to be, right? But I think what you said is so right. We forget you already have a network. While everybody out there trying to get in it, you already have one. So it's just a matter of kind of being reminded of that and going back to it.
What's one piece of advice that you can give to young women about where to start seeking a community if they don't already have one established?
Someone just joined Hey Auntie. It was just like, I just want friends, and which I love. A lot of times when women join Hey Auntie, they're very much like, listen, I need friends. I need a community. I think the first thing that I would tell younger women with community is how deeply you are loved. That's so important because I think, and I understand this, you can be in your head a lot and you kind of think that everyone is against you, or especially now, because, it's so divisive. So I would just remind you how just deeply you are loved and how so many of us are rooting for you. But I think of practical tips that I would give younger people to join community, because people often ask me, start volunteering. So a lot of times with my aunties, right, because even this is kind of built into Hey Auntie, we're not like traditional mentoring, because mentoring is more like a relationship and you're just kind of pulling from someone. Nothing wrong with that. I'm all here for it. But my relationships with aunties have always been through like exchanging of mutual aid and service, right? So I'm in spaces where there's opportunities to support aunties and relationships are naturally occurring. So I'm not going in there to get things from anyone. I really started thinking like, how can I help you? What are you up to? So I think if you're younger, if you're looking for a natural community, something that can build organically, look for areas where you can serve. The other thing that I would say is understanding community is work. And sometimes, it's like, I want a safe community. Well, safe community doesn't mean there won't be offense and there won't be challenges. Okay. So understanding that that's a natural part of relationships, right? But learning how to have grace for people's mistakes and their faults, I think also too is really important, because I think especially if you're younger, there might be this sense that there's a perfect community for me. We're not perfect, right? I heard someone say that about churches. Everybody look for the perfect church. As soon as you get there, it's not perfect.
Absolutely.
It's not perfect. So I think really learning how to move in a way where you're serving. How can I give? How can I extend grace? The last thing I would add that's really important is the power of follow-up. So if you commit to something, follow up. Even if it's just sending a text, I make sure to send my aunties Christmas cards. So there's an art to community building that I think is lost a bit because of technology, actually.
Yes.
So a lot of those practices, we also try to think about how we can reintroduce those into Hey Auntie so that people understand it's not just saying, I want a friend, but kind of really learning all the intricacies and skills to actually being a friend.
Where can the audience find out more about Hey Auntie, and how can they connect? Like if they're interested in joining the community?
So they can join. You can go to www.heyauntie.io. And we're also on IG _Hey Auntie, and we're on LinkedIn.
Nicole, thanks so much for joining us today. I'm excited to see how Hey Auntie continues to grow. It's been a pleasure having you today. Allow me to leave you with a few words from Coretta Scott King today. The greatness of community is most accurately measured by the compassionate actions of its members. Thanks so much for listening today. Don't forget to like, rate, share, and review. And I can't wait to talk to you all next week. Take care until then.